Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure review. Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance. We are not going to unbox this action figure. We are going to look at it as is, mint in box, mostly because this is an action figure which is almost 20 years old. If you're familiar with the older DC Direct stuff, you'll know that the quality control wasn't always the greatest. Some of their figures could be a little bit fragile. And for me, this is more so about just keeping it mint on box because I think it's a beautiful display piece as is. All right, so let's get started. So we're gonna jump back into the time machine and travel back to probably about maybe 2005 when this figure first came out. This was from Series 1 of the Justice League, story done by Alex Ross. If you're not familiar with Alex Ross, I highly suggest you pick up his graphic novel, Kingdom Come, that he worked on with author Mark Waid. For me, it's one of the greatest DC superhero stories ever told. And not only that, but it's also one of the greatest illustrated pieces ever. It's one of those comic books when you take a look at it, it's just gonna like change the way you look at comic books. Everything's very breathtaking. It's beautifully painted. It really raises the bar to like an almost cinema level. So if you haven't read Kingdom Come, go out and seek it. It's fantastic. So Alex Ross, he was such a big deal during the late 90s and early 2000s that DC felt the need to produce action figures based on his interpretations of some of the, characters that inhabited the DC universe. And this was his take on Superman that was seen in the Justice League book that he did. It's a wonderful looking action figure. It's his take on Superman. It commands so much presence and authority. There's a very dignified air about his take on the character. It's a much older Superman, but he still retains a lot of the iconic visage of everyone's beloved superhero, like the spit curl, the Superman emblem, which he just like really enlarged and blew up. It's fantastic. The costume is the very evergreen design, but it has such a deep, rich shade of blue and red that the contrast against the gold on the emblem, this makes it really pop out. And it's a beautiful figure. I believe this was sculpted by artist, I want to say Tim Bruckner, right over there. It's pretty cool. Back in the day, they used to give sculptors credit. Very rarely do companies do that nowadays. They're artists in their own right, and I think it's kind of a shame that that companies don't credit the sculptors with the action figures that you hold in your hand. But yeah, this is a beautiful piece. Even though it is articulated, it's really meant more so to be a display piece than something to play with and hold. This probably only has maybe at the most 7 points of articulation. But if you've handled any of the older DC Direct stuff, you know that the quality control isn't the greatest. Sometimes a little bit more fragile. And even though you could move the joints around, they're not really meant to be posed, as they are most so just meant to be displayed very like in a very static like pose. Because most of these figures, they were more so like miniature statues than action figures. And as you can see, it comes with a very large display base in the back. But this is a wonderful action figure. If we were to unbox it, you're looking at something that's probably within the 6-inch scale. For example, here's a Marvel Legends Vulcan X-Men action figure. Here's a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure, which completely just towers over the Superman figure. But these were nice figures. They're premium items. They're direct to market, meaning you can only get them at like comic book shops or specialty stores like a Tower Records. You could not find these like at Walmart or Target. You had to buy them directly at a comic book shop, or like I said, if you had like a Tower Records next to you. The box art is very beautiful. Here are all the action figures, and if from a distance you'd swear it almost looks like an Alex Ross painting. And here we see them again. The The composition's composed to kind of like resemble the layout of an Alex Ross piece also, which is nice. Up close portrait of the action figure. And then here we go again. So it's pretty neat. This is a nice piece of action figure history, especially for me. I loved the early 2000s in terms of being a comic book reader and a toy collector. It seems like, you know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, you know, everyone was kind of like taking chances. You know, everyone was breaking new ground. It was so cool. I mean, the stuff we get nowadays is amazing. Don't get me wrong. But if you lived throughout this time period, you know, there was just something very magical about the late 90s and early 2000s, especially in the toy world. You know, because for the longest time in the 80s and early 90s, we had like nothing. Then, you know, the mid 90s came and companies like Toy Biz and McFarlane Toys came out, and they gave us so many cool like superhero action figures. You know, Kenner and Hasbro, they're jumping back in, giving us stuff like G.I. Joe and like Star Wars Power of the Force. So there was kind of like this like action figure renaissance during this time period. And for me, you know, especially going into like the early 2000s, is kind of like reaching its peak. So this is just something I just wanted to share with you. I picked it up at a toy show. If I didn't mention that already, probably got it for like maybe like 10 to 12 bucks. And for me, it was totally worth it. It's like when I think of Superman, this is definitely one of the versions of Superman I see in my head. The Alex Ross interpretation. It's a stunning piece. All right, so with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.